Okay, again, this is section 4, chapter 3 of Savitch C++ problem solving. Part 2 of this section, we're talking about general methods to control the loop. So the way we're going to be controlling our loop, we can do it, have a count control loops. We can ask before iterating, or we can exit on flag condition. So when we have count, we know how many we're going to have. So we're going to be counting, and then as soon as the count is finished, then we're going to stop. So that's the most common one that we are using. So for example, we're going to say enter 10 scores. So we're going to have a loop that is going to go 10 times and asking for each one of them. Or we can potentially ask before iterating. We can say, how many scores do you have? And then the user says 5, 7, and we're going to create a loop for 7 iteration or 5 iteration. And that's the way we're going to exit. Now, we're talking about exit on a flag condition. So we can potentially have a flag. This flag is going to be some kind of an event. So generally the flag is a Boolean flag. It's going to be true or false. And then if some condition happen inside our loop, we're going to set this flag to false or true. And then we're going to check it in our loop. And that way we can terminate our loop. So examples is I can have a flag that's going to set it to true. We talked about some of these things in the class. We can have is AM, is female, is weekend. So if I have a Boolean for is female, that means if it's false, it's a male. If it's true, it's going to be female. And we can put these things inside our code, like while is not valid input. So is valid input is true when the input is valid. While it's not true, we're going to do something about it. So we can have it with the sentinel value. We are looking at termination with something. As soon as we see that one, we can set our flag either to true or false, depending to your design. So this is an example that we are setting a flag. So in this case, we are looking for students who have 90 or better. So what we're doing is we are starting with the student number 1, which of course, that's not a good variable name. Good variable name would be a student number. So we're going to be using that one instead of n in our class. So we are computing the grade. This is a function that's going to accept n and it's going to compute the grade. Again, this is going to be part of next chapter. So don't worry about this function. The idea is we're going to get the grade for this student. Now we're going to check it. If it's not 90, so we are looking for the first student who has 90 and above 90. So if the student is not getting 90, I'm going to go inside. We're going to add 1 to the student number because the first one is already checked. And then we're going to repeat this. We're going to get a grade, and then we're going to check it to see if it's 90 and above. And if it's not, we're going to read the next one. And we're going to keep doing it till we get the first student with grade of 90 and above. So we're going to get the student number and a score and the grade for that student. Now, by looking at this, what do you think can go wrong? What would be the problem with this loop? So we are thinking we're looking for the first student who is getting 90 or above. So we're going to go through this loop to find the first student. We have a student number. We're going to grade for the student number. If it's less than 90, we're going to add 1 to the student number. We're going to get the next one. We're going to get the next one till we get to the 90. So what can go wrong with this? What do you think can go wrong with this loop? If you need more time, pause the video and think about it that what can go wrong with this. So if you pay attention to this loop, the while loop is looking for grade less than 90. What about if we don't have 90? Let's say that we have, for some strange reason, let's say the test was too hard or something happened and nobody has 90. So what's going to happen? This won't keep going, but eventually we're going to run out of the student numbers. So we're going to have an issue. So that's why we have to think about it, even though we are thinking that we are looking for student number 90 and above, then there is a possibility that nobody has 90, and then this is going to keep going. So we have to think about it. So if I have a list of students, maybe I need the second check. So let's say I have 30 students. I'm going to keep doing it, but I will have my eye on the number of students, because my number of students cannot go more than 90. 30. I cannot go more than 30 because I don't have any more students more than that. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to add another one that says a student number is going to be less than my max number of students. So when I am doing this, I have two conditions. One is grade less than 90, and one is my students' number is less than my max number. Now, when I'm coming out of here, I don't have no idea if it was terminated because of the first one or because of the second one. So I'm going to be checking. So if it was greater than 90, that means that this one was the termination. So I found my first student who has about 90. And if it was not correct, that means it stopped in the second one. That means I exhausted my whole list and I didn't find anything about 90. So I am going to say there was no students with high score of 90. All right, next topic, we're going to be talking about the nested loop. Nested loop, or we have loops inside the loop. Again, in C++, it's barely question in if I can do this in C++. Generally, the question is, how can I do in C++? C++ is a very powerful language, and it can do many, many things. So generally, the question is, how can we do? So nested loop is a loop inside the loop. So we can put a loop inside the if statement. We can put if statement inside the loop. We can put another loop inside the loop. We can have a for loop. Inside of it have a while loop. We can have a while loop. Inside of it have a for loop. Generally, the rule of thumb is you don't want to go 3 levels down because it's going to get very complex to follow. We will learn about the functions to put the function in there. So we reduce the number of line of code in there because for the readability. So remember, if I have loops inside of loops, the one inside the loop is going to go first, and then it's going to come out and do the bigger loop. So we have a bigger loop and then the other one inside of it. We're going to look at this for next chapter, 4 and 5. We're going to be talking about the functions. So to make it easier to follow, we're going to create functions for this. You don't have to worry about it right now. So we're going to be looking at this code over here. And in here, we have a for loop. So this is my outer for loop that starts with 1, and it's going to end less than or equal number of reports. So we're looking at number of reports, and then so we're going to see how many do we have. And then when we go inside of this for loop, we are looking at another while loop that's going to be checking the number of eggs in the nest. So we have number of nests and we have number of eggs inside each nest. So first we're going to create a loop to go through all the number of nests. Let's say it's 100, 500. So we start with the 1. We go inside the loop. So we're going to be looking at nest number 1. Then we're going to be counting the eggs. So counting the eggs, we're going to be asking about the number. As far as it's positive, we're going to add it to our subtotal. So we're going to keep reading and we're going to add it to this. So as far as you give me a positive number, I'm going to count it. So here is 2, here is 3, here is 1. We're just going to add them together. Now, before I go back to my author loop, then in here, I can print the number of eggs for that nest. So if my for loop starts with 1, I'm starting with nest number 1. I'm going to do this while loop. I can print how many eggs was in nest number 1. When we're done with this, we're going to go back. We're going to read the nest number 2, number 3, number 4, all the way to 100, 500, whatever we had. After we're done with the for loop, now we can print out the total of eggs. That was for all of them total. So this is when we are finished with the outer loop. So we have an outer loop and inner loop. Now, remember that if I have a break or continue in our inner loop, it's only going to affect our inner loop, not the outer loop that we have. So the break and continue is only going to apply to this one. Okay, I'm going to stop right here to go to the debugging one in another video.